Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, reviews of comics new and old, to history to anecdotes, really wherever our whims take us. What ifs, always an intriguing time. The series wherein Marvel explores alternate happenings or moments in characters' lives in the Marvel Universe. A series that explores something and asks, what if? And the questions range. We've covered a bunch of these at this point, but there are still many we haven't touched upon. But you may be asking, what time is it? And why do you have 3 watches? It's sponsor time. I'm happy to say this video is brought to you by Disliz. They're a small independent company that specializes in fandom style watches. So watch faces and bands that are inspired by different fandoms. As you can see, I got a bunch on here. I've got a Garfield, I've got Reptar, I've got Invader Zim. This one's my favorite. I almost said it in a Zim-like voice. I have a mighty need for Zim. And they've done some really fun collaborations. For example, this little one here with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's signed by Kevin Eastman. That's a Kevin Eastman signature. They have a range of collections. I will link to all of them. Unfortunately, they're only available in the US and Mexico right now, but if you live in those 2 places, you can pick them up super easily. And if you're a Canadian like me, you know what to do. You do the get somebody in the States to order it and then send it to you. It's a process, but it's a thing that you can make happen. Now, they wanted to bring to all of your attention that they are going to be doing a Marvel collection. The pre-registers begin in August of 2021, so depending upon when you're watching this, it may already be open and you could go down there and pre-register. But also, they would like some suggestions for what should be on the watch faces, because there are lots of options when it comes to Marvel. So they want you to go to their site, which I will link below, and then you can leave your suggestions as to what should be on the watch, and maybe one will make it. So go check it out, see if you have anything that you want, and also leave them a suggestion for Marvel. They asked me what I thought, and I thought a Spidey watch was a definite must. Then it was, what Spidey? And then I thought about all those great what if Spideys, and that led me to the what if we're about to explore today. I'm Sasha. Like, share, comment, subscribe. What if? So while I was sifting through my mental Rolodex of Spidey scenes, what popped into my head was, well, the 6-armed Spidey. And we'd recently, at the time of this recording, taken a look at Morbius's first appearance. That was in the Amazing Spider-Man 101. And that happens to also be the issue where Spider-Man has his 6 arms. Morbius first appeared there in 1971 when they had lifted the supernatural creature ban with the comics code. Now, Spider-Man actually got the arms at the end of issue 100, and then 101 and 102 was him trying to figure out how to get rid of them. Also fighting Morbius. Oh, and the lizard showed up. It was a very brief moment, but it stuck around in people's minds. But essentially by 102, it was done. And they were able to cure him because of special enzyme that was in Morbius's blood. This 6-armed Spidey, it recurred wherever it could. And one of those places was in Marvel What If number 42. This was from the second ongoing run of the What If series. It's varied. Sometimes it's ongoing, sometimes it's just released in little minis, sometimes they're one-shots. This one was released in 1992. And it tackles the question, what if Spider-Man had kept his 6 arms? The people want to know, you want to know, we're gonna find out. These are also very comfortable, by the way. I'm wearing all 3 and I don't even feel it. The band texture is very good. Now, this what if is interesting because in some ways it breaks the what if mold. A lot of the time, what ifs could be used to reaffirm that what had happened in the main timeline of the 616 was the best option. Sometimes fans could get a, oh, so you wanted things to go differently? Well, actually you didn't vibe from some of the stories. The Phoenix what if often gets accused of that. The what if Jean Grey had lived one. So a lot of times things would go badly or in a way that would reassert the status quo or imply that the status quo was just going to occur anyway. But issue 42 is not like that. It truly runs with a scenario, sees it through, and tries to give it a positive twist. It takes some awkward turns to get there though. The other interesting thing about the what ifs is some of them are now concepts that have happened in the main verse. For example, in the case of 6-armed Spider-Man, he reappeared in the Spider-Verse, but who didn't reappear in the Spider-Verse event? I'm sure some didn't, and some of you are leaving them down below. These Spideys didn't appear. Let me know, I want to hear it. Which Spideys were missing? The cover for this issue is an homage to the first Spider-Man cover on Amazing Fantasy number 15. Only this time he has 6 arms and is carrying 2 people. Ah, the cut-off sleeve plaid shirt. So 90s. I also love how annoyed he looks. He's inconvenienced. Also note shocked Thing in the corner. That'd be a good face on a watch. Actually, Thing on a watch would look good. Oh, and you could make all the jokes. What time is it? Clobbering time. What if Spider-Man never lost his 4 extra arms? What if Marvel stopped phrasing these questions so awkwardly and also differently on the covers and interiors? The credits section has the whole what if as a question for each person. So what if Michael Gallagher wrote it? What if Kevin West penciled it? It's of course just a themed gag, but it conjured up images for me of the idea that there are just all these interns doing the actual work, just this secret legion of ghost employees. Ghost is in uncredited, not ghost is in actual ghosts. That would be really interesting. As with most what if stories of this era, it's narrated by Uatu, the Watcher. Now this retelling is a bit amusing because it's much milder than the original story. For example, Peter here says, "I'm through being Spider-Man. I want a normal life and I want to spend it with Gwen Stacy." But it actually went like this: "In order for Peter Parker to really live, Spider-Man must die." Don't neuter the intense angst and melodrama from classic Spider-Man 90s, let it breathe. And so first things unfold as they did with less drama. He calls Kirk Connors, goes to his beach house and tries to find a cure. And Morbius is on a boat, killing the crew Dracula style. Only here it diverges. Whereas before in issue 101, Morbius was living his life in stealth mode and fled the ship after having a fit of regret after a kill, here he's just embraced the monster within and is on one of those Comics Code approved bloodless killing sprees. Well, no blood on the people, but blood in the water. Oh, the beautiful complexity of censorship. So he dives into the water, covered in blood, and he attracts sharks. So what we learn here is when it comes to sharks versus vampires, sharks win. So Morbius is killed by sharks, which means he never goes to the beach house and never fights Spidey and the lizard, so they never discover the curative enzyme in his blood. The sharks have that now. Are they vampire sharks? Pseudo-vampire sharks? Is this a what if sequel that needs to happen? I say yes. Now Connors still comes over to try to help Spidey, but their lack of success is so frustrating he turns into the lizard. I, however, was more distracted by the fact that Spider-Man calls him Curtis. "Dr. Connors, Curtis, you have to remain calm." How can he? You're using his full name. He fights him and he finds that having extra arms is actually giving him a bit of an advantage, because he can grab onto him and still have free hands for punching. Dig it. Instead of the old 1-2, here's the new 1-6. After he makes the antidote to turn Connors back into, well, himself, Curtis, then he decides that he needs to take responsibility for himself, that he did this to himself. But Curtis says he shouldn't give up just yet. He says that he should contact an expert on mutation, Professor Charles Xavier. So Peter heads up to the X-Mansion and finds that traveling is also easier with his new arms. Once he gets there, he's attacked by the ever antisocial X-Men. I forgot how much I liked this version of Angel's costume. Professor X comes out with Marvel Girl, aka Jean. Growing up in the 90s thanks to the cartoon, I'm so used to just calling her Jean. It still to this day takes me aback when I'm reminded, oh right, Marvel Girl. Professor X calls them off because he knows why Spidey's there, because, well, telepath, no boundaries for him. And so he takes him inside and he does an analysis, but it's not good news. It looks like this transformation is permanent. "All I want is my normal life back again, and instead I'm gonna be a sideshow freak, a social outcast, a cripple." Cringing for Spidey. F's in the chat for Spidey. And then Spider-Man was never seen again. Let's take him out back to the pit with all the other people who trespass at the X-Mansion. Now I get why this is here. It's meant to be shocking and rude and showcase Spider-Man's inherent bias and him having a hard time coping. And the word choice is specifically because he is there with Xavier in his wheelchair. However, it doesn't make sense in a story sense. This is because before this he was talking about, wow, I'm so much more effective now when I travel and punch. Even with it being upset about it being permanent, it's an odd word choice because that derogatory term doesn't mean what he's been experiencing with the arms. Deformed would have made more sense, but also he wouldn't have put his foot as much in his mouth that way. We need this moment for the plot. The point, Spider-Man's having a hard time. He's got 99 problems and an extra 4 arms is most of them. He apologizes, which Xavier accepts, and offers him some advice. He tells him that it all comes down to attitude. You must channel this emotional energy in a positive direction or it will destroy you. You have a unique opportunity to become a role model for the physically challenged. Is having extra arms the same thing? I mean, I don't know. But anyway, this is just Charles actually trying to make things better for mutants in the long run by hoping that if Spider-Man goes out there as an advocate, there'll be more acceptance. Sneaky, sneaky. I mean, I guess he also hopes he feels better. Your life isn't over, son. True, it's been radically altered, but make the most of it. Spidey says that he's probably right, but right now he's having a really difficult time. Because in his mind, his life as Peter Parker is over. He has visions of showing up at Aunt May's house and her just having a heart attack. So he decides he's gonna try one more place. He's gonna go to the best scientist he knows, Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic. But Reed says that he's come to the same conclusion as Xavier. And then the Thing comes in. Hey, Webbs, I got something to tell you. And Peter snaps. I posted this panel in the community tab because there's these little details in it, like the one hand pointing, the other knocking the Thing's cigar out of his mouth, that just make it a really solid moment. The Thing backhands him. Earned. He called him a monster. Now this is essentially the exact same scene as the one that came before, only with a fight. Also, this one works better narratively because him calling Ben a monster and feeling like one makes a bit more sense. The connection is clear. clearer and more solid, because having 4 arms and looking like a literal Spider-Man puts him more in that territory, or at least the territory where he could be perceived as a monster. But that first scene is following the theme for the payoff they're trying to build to. So yeah, the same scene twice. Hashtag padding. Reed separates them. Spider-Man apologizes and makes up with Ben, who actually wasn't there to give him any advice. He says that he was there because he saw a hostage situation on TV. Doc Ock has hostages and he was asking for Spider-Man. He came in very calmly to tell him that. I guess it's just such a common occurrence. So Peter decides he can't put it off any longer. He's gonna have to reveal himself to the public. I hope you're fond of surprises, Otto, because I got 6 of them for you. So he captures Dr. Octopus and the public is stunned. Yeah, thanks for giving us I mean, this is weird, even funny, yuck. Is it though? Now Jameson is ecstatic. He thinks that finally the public is going to reject Spider-Man. His work is done. But this truly is Another Earth because this is the beginning of the public's acceptance of Spider-Man. The people identify with Spider-Man and can somehow tell he's going through it, but protecting them anyway. What Earth is this? That's a rhetorical question. I don't actually want the number. But what about his day-to-day life as Peter Parker? Well, Reed has a solution, a sort of kind of solution. They're arm sheaths. They will cloak his extra arms. But I mean, people are still bound to, they could bump into, you know what, it's fine. Peter accepts it because he says this way he can have some semblance of a normal life again. Because before this, he had just essentially stopped being Peter Parker. He'd been in hiding for months. Wow, Mr. Fantastic, you're fantastic. I no longer feel bad about my fantastic joke. It was fantastic. Stop. So Peter goes to visit Aunt May, but also decides that Gwen just can't handle this, nor can any woman ever, so guess he'll just be alone forever. So I see he never actually dealt with his whole I can't tell anyone I'm Spider-Man thing. He hasn't actually achieved balance, he's just stopped being Peter. I don't know, it doesn't show a lot of confidence in Gwen. I guess she really dodged a bullet, or in this case, a neck snap. I mean, he could have told someone, he didn't have to be alone. It kind of undercuts the whole he's an inspiration message by adding the whole because no one could get close to his 6 arms. Because it's not like he's doing it by choice, it's because who could ever understand that he has 6 arms in this world full of mutants and heroes and even just potentially an understanding regular human who I've come to accept my reclusive lifestyle. I haven't. The die, as they say, is cast. But why though? So Peter throws himself into being Spider-Man and he does a lot of good. He helps out in the cosmic events against Thanos, which for some reason is compared to him taking on Electro. He also helps take on Mephisto, and the comic goes out of its way to say that he saved Gwen. But the only reason the Green Goblin kidnapped her was because she was with Peter, so why would he have still kidnapped her? If he knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, which he does, why wouldn't he just tell everybody, hey, Peter Parker's got 6 arms and he's Spider-Man, look at him, forever alone. I know I'm not doing what they wanted. They just wanted me to be like, yay, Gwen's alive. Well, I'm sorry, I can't do that issue 42. I mean, this is deemed even more significant or up there with defeating Mephisto and Thanos. We talked about this in the Gwen retrospective, how the view on her changed after her death and how it mythologized her. This is a good example of that, how it would just crop up in small ways. Check out our Gwen retrospective, by the way.
Most important of all, Spider-Man fulfills Charles Xavier's wish. He comes to terms with the situation he brought upon himself and becomes a universally respected spokesman for the physically challenged world. Spider-Man vindicates himself and validates his creed. With great power must come great responsibility.
Next up, Wolverine's getting married. Step off, Logan, that's Lois's job. This issue, I appreciate that it bucks the trend of your depressing ending for the what ifs. It has something positive come out of Peter's misfortune and he becomes an inspiration to other people. However, it's a tad clunky in execution and the comparison is awkward at best. It doesn't really work and they're really forcing it. Also, the fact that they keep saying that he did it to himself and then making that equivocation, it's another way that it kind of falls flat. And also, he didn't just have to give up on being Peter. It doesn't feel like he's accepted it and like he's thriving. It feels like he's resigned himself to his fate. It feels more like atonement than a celebration. I do like that the story acknowledges that having 6 arms would change a lot for him in a variety of aspects of his life, like not only in his personal life, but also in how he could fight and how he could move. And the people he seeks out to help him makes sense. The imagery of the 6 arms will forever be cool. And seeing him pimp slap the Thing's cigar makes me smile. I also smile at the X-Men essentially instantly releasing the Hounds. It's well-intentioned if slightly uncoordinated, but the 6 arms make it iconic. And I have to admit, I'm always kind of attached to them since I saw them pop up in the Neogenic Nightmares arc. I mean, hey, he didn't die or end up on the run or have somebody else die, so it's all coming up Spidey. Now, when I posted that image, a bunch of you said that this was your first Spidey what if, so I want to hear your fave. What's your favorite Spider-Man what if any? You're like, no more Spider-Man, enough is enough. What Spidey moment would you put on a watch? Thanks so much for taking Spider Day to spend it discussing comics with me. I always appreciate, and please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.